Hi everyone and welcome back to another week on the channel. If you're new around here, I'm Jess and this is Alex. We're a couple from Cornwall in the UK with a passion for travel and adventure. We've had a few vans so far in our life, most importantly our pride and joy Norm, a Peugeot Boxer that we built into a camper van to explore the Nordic Arctic last winter. Since we've been back in the UK, we've been searching for the perfect summer camper for van life in Cornwall, which is when a few weeks ago we found our newest project, a T5 Volkswagen Transporter, which we plan to convert into an epic, compact, off-road adventure wagon that will allow us to explore the beautiful place that we live in this year. So if you are new here, a big thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who have been watching for a while, we hope you enjoy coming along with us for this next chapter.
This week, we're stripping all of this crap out of here, and we're finally going to start building out the interior. So let's get on with it. I'm going to start by getting these seats out, because to get the floor out, I've got to try and take up these brackets, and that's going to be an interesting task.
Get up on your feet, this is a shakedown. Order up that beat just like it's takeout. Show me you got soul inside those new shoes.
Van floor now completely empty. These need to come up, which are bolted through. I think we're going to leave these ones completely out of the van, so you don't see them in the floor, because we're not going to put this seat in anyway. And then these two will be keeping. But obviously one thing we have to address is that gap there that I can put my fingers in. So the floor needs to come out, these need to come out to allow the floor out, and then it's bolted in 4 places around the van. So once we get that out, we can work out what we're dealing with. I then need to do a trip to B&Q, get some battens to lift up the floor, and then we can lay new ply down. Obviously we can template off this, and then I think we can start getting the floor panels in. I'm not going to set myself too much, because I always set myself too much and then don't complete. So let's get the floor stripped out and see how these rails come out. I'm just going to go for what is the most brutal approach. Oga gun. Let's see what happens. Okay, we're spinning. So I assume they'd gone into the chassis rails, but they must have plated underneath, and there must be a nut somewhere, which is going to be nearly impossible to get these out on my own. This side will be fine, but doing it over that side where there's no sliding door, yeah, I don't have arms like Mr. Tickle. So let's jump under the van and see how they've done it. I got some bad news on how they've done it. They dropped out the fuel tank, because the fuel tank is right there. Oh. The other side isn't as bad, but you've still got the exhaust and whatever that panelling is hiding over there. I don't really know what's there. That might be easy to get to. You might just have to unbolt that, but judging by down there where it's hollow. So this side is going to be a bit of a nightmare, actually. I've come up with a method for this side. It's crude, but it's working. So, yeah. Right, that is the last one out. Lovely sort of sweet that maybe was a sweet anymore. But yeah, we are completely out. All the rails are now out the floor. which means we can move on to, oh, that bolt's gone, but each corner there is a bolt, and there's one in the centre, which is a nice little multi-spline. So I'll take all 5 of those that are remaining out, and then the floor should lift out, all being well, and then we'll get to see what condition it's in underneath. That is it all stripped out. Now obviously somebody has glued or like cemented, it's weird glue, I've not really seen it like that before, the ply battens down that we're in. So all of these were all sort of cemented into here. However, one of the cleanest van floors I think I've ever seen. Now considering it lived by the coast, and this van has corrosion, like you saw in the other week's video with the mirror, and stuff like this is all starting to go. The body's alright, like it's in straight and fairly rust-free condition. There's a little bit of, well, something there, but yeah, generally, it is spot on. So actually, other than I'll paint these holes because I'm going to hide them, it's kind of perfect, really. So what I'm going to do now is put in those 2 seat runners that were there and get to measuring to see what sort of size height I need to bring to the floor. I'm going to guess it's about 20 mil. The board that was down was 9 mil. So what I'll do is find the nearest sized batten, go to B&Q and get probably a 9 mil floor again, and then batten her up in the air, and then I've got to work out what I'm going to do with this step. I'm thinking I'll probably raise the step up because the furniture that we got, or hoping to get, fits the step. So if I don't raise the step, there'll be like a weird line under the furniture. So yeah, I'm thinking raise the step up and then maybe make like a little plastic fascia to go along the bottom with some strengthening underneath. But yeah, so for today we'll measure up, and then I think we'll head to B&Q. We have around a 45mm gap to come up with. Now, out of this, you need to take into consideration we'll have a 9mm floor, so that'll take us down to 36mm, and then we will have, I believe, the thickness of the actual floor covering we're going to use, which is another 9mm, so that'll take us down to 27mm. So the battens we need are 27mm, there or thereabouts. I imagine it's probably more likely we're going to find something nearer to 30. Okay, so after sitting around and pondering that for a very long time, I've found exactly what we need. So I'm going to pop up to B&Q now, grab that, and I'll catch up with you guys when I get back. A few hours later, but we have supplies. So I have 2 sheets of 9, 3 sheets of 6. 6 is to make a new panel to go where the window is, and 2 sectional roof. To give you an idea of battens, this is what I'm thinking. Now I know these need cutting because currently they're sat on top of ribs. So they'll get cut there, and then we'll cut out some more to go crossways in here, and all these little, basically anywhere there's a big, pretty much where there's glue, we'll put some battens in, which will then allow us to build out the floor at this height. It's worth noting that the floor material again is 9mm, and then the flooring, like the finished flooring, is another 9mm. So you have an 18mm thick floor. So in theory, we should have plenty of span without it sort of bouncing or sagging or doing anything weird like that. Providing I put enough joints in, we should be all right. So I'm going to get all these cut. I'm going to do that off camera, otherwise you guys are going to get bored. So I'll get all these cut down, make up a nice little lattice work for the floor, and I'll come back to you when that's done. So we'll do a bit of a emboss. So we've paid special attention to where your weight is going to be, so coming in the door and then along, so everything's double batten there. But let's get it all glued down, and then we'll rip this carpet up and then start looking at making the new floor panels.
I miss that sexy smile, looking forward to see you. I hope I will lose control. Love you every night, no checking the time, just us loving you all night long. I can let you go, baby, it's done right, we already know, and we feel it. I really do understand the truth.
All carpet is now removed, other than the wheel arches. They're going to be hidden below the seats, and to be honest, they're a pain in the ass, so that carpet can stay and the ply will join up to it, so I'm not too worried about that. I've laid out half of the new floor and marked out the old floor on top because it fitted quite nicely. So I've done the left panel there, and now let's get this cut out.
Walking down a lonely road. You found me.
Whole floor now is screwed in. We've got the cutouts there for the seats, and we are looking good. We have a floor, and I've just measured the depth in there, and when you put the piece of extra the flooring there, we have the exact height that we need to allow us to get the seat rails in and have them flush to the floor. I'm going to pack up now and call it quits for the day. I'll see you guys in the morning. It's probably time for story time. I haven't recorded anything today, and that's because I've been doing very monotonous, boring tasks, such as running all the 12-volt cabling throughout the body, which has been an insight. Running it in a French van is so much easier than running it through a German van. There's a lot of things that are welded off and things like that in the body that you can't get to, but we've got it done. So we've got a cable track that kind of runs across the back, up the top, and then runs down the driver's side and also runs down the passenger side. Both of those will then go forward and drop. So they'll drop down through where the seat belts are and then come out the bottom in a little cable channel of some kind under the seats, and that'll go to the 12-volt fuse board, which in this van I'm going to keep very accessible. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, but in Norm it's an absolute nightmare, and you've got to lay on your side and try and hold non-magnetic screws. So this van is going to be just there to work on because I'm not doing that again. The other thing I've been doing is sound deadening, and believe it or not, those two things have taken all day, more so the wiring than sound deadening, but we are there. So let me run you through this. If I move back, to begin with, it looks like a proper jumbo of wires. However, if you look here, you have the outlet for everything that runs through the arch at the back doors. The switches are going to be here on this wall. So all of this will feed up into the wall. So everything then crosses up over that and comes out either here or back down to here. And then there's an entire track of cables that runs forward to everything that's there. And then, like I say, everything will come down the B pillar there. 240 volt has been run as well. So the fuse board and inverter are going to live in this section in the wall. I'm going to have to recess that in. Then comes round through the back. You can actually get a cable down there, believe it or not. So it comes through, loops to the next socket. So we're going to have a socket under the bed, which would be sort of e-bike batteries, that kind of thing. That one will be above the seat. and then it comes over this arch, drops down this wall, comes out here, and goes along and down. And that will be a 12 volt, 240 volt socket that will be by the door for plugging in sort of the Ninja smoker and that sort of thing. Now, sound deadening. As you can see, I've made significant strides and done all of this. Now, if anyone doesn't know what sound deadening is, it's basically foil sheets that stick. So this allows you basically to get rid of the drumming that comes from a van body for the purposes of this. And then I hope you can hear it's got more of a tone to it, like a bell. It rings after, whereas it's much more of a thud, so it takes some of the drumming out of the van body. It is carpet time. So if nobody's done stretch carpet before, quick run through the tools you're going to need. Sharp standing knife blades with standing knife. As soon as they go blunt, it's useless. It just won't work. Decent pair of scissors. It's the best I could find. And then spray glue. So generally what we do spray glue is spray it onto the metal, spray it onto the carpet. I let it go tacky, probably about 30 seconds or so, and then you can start applying. The plan today is everything around the edges of where a ply kit would fit is going to get covered in this sort of camel warm colour. Because one thing we've noticed with the big van is it's all very cold, but we kept it neutral because we kind of always intended to move it on. It was never a keeper. So this time it's for us, everything's going to be a bit more personalised. Let's set up a time lapse and get on with the carpet. The carpet is now done. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it was perfect and it all went in one go, because I've redone this arch twice because I tried to do it without a join in it and then completely screwed up sections up there, and it became a whole thing. So we have carpet in. I am not happy with this. However, I hope you can see the sort of design that we're going for, whereby we have carpet on all the pillars that is one colour, and then we're going to have a offsetting colour in the ply sections in there. Now, this is an inherently wasteful way of doing stretch carpet, because you massively waste a lot of carpet on the way round, obviously, these sections. So we ordered 7 meters by 2 meters, so 14 square meters. And this, we bought 4 pots of glue, 'cause it was cheaper to buy the glue separately. This that we have finished now allows us to crack on with the rest of the van and get the ceiling in. So I need to go to town and pick up some materials to cover the roof in, and then we should be able to get ready for tomorrow when we're going to put the roof battens in, which kind of gives away what we're doing for the roof, but I'm excited for that. That's going to hopefully start to bring the van together. Today's Bank Holiday Monday. Hopefully a lot of stuff's going to get delivered tomorrow. We're still waiting for carpet to do these wall sections. We're still waiting for lights. We're still waiting for switches. We're still waiting for a whole plethora of things. So yeah, we're getting there, but I'll show you around. We've got this all nicely tucked into here. This is the bit I'm not too happy with. I didn't want to have a join, but we've ended up with it. But it looks so weird having light walls. I'm happy with that. Now, one thing I will say is if you're thinking about tools for this, I was very lucky. I got these off John when we went and saw them for Van Love, and it's a pack of 100 Stanley knife blades. Now my advice is just treat them as massive consumables, throw them away, get trigger happy with them, because the minute it starts to blunt, your life becomes a nightmare. Always keep them sharp. So generally I'd get about 5 or 6 cuts and the tip would blunt against the metal, and at that point throw it away. I know it seems wasteful, but I'd rather waste what, a 0.1 of a pence Stanley knife blade than carve it at however many pounds a metre. So yeah, obviously we're missing the seal to go around that window, but we are looking nice and done. Ignore, I know that looks a little bit hacksawy, but where that crease goes along the top will all be hidden behind a panel. So this will all be as well hidden behind a panel. You only see roughly the outline of the window. You won't see all the way to the edge of the glass like you can at the minute once I've got the ply in. Right, we are back from town. Now, I've collected a lot of things that are going to help me make the roof. That's the next step to this. I want the roof to go in, I want the floor to go in, and then the walls will go in to hide any edges of anything. So, what I need to do is create some battens that go onto these cross members. And then what I can do is run our roof battens that way, but it gives me a piece of timber to screw into, because usually when you try and go into this, you end up with just a nightmare of missing holes and whatever else. So, some of you may be thinking, why don't you just make some nice battens that go straight across this and then save yourself the headroom? Or save yourself the headache? And the answer is, to be honest, I'm just trying to maximise headspace. So, if I go to these, then it makes my life a lot easier once I've done the job. I know making them is going to be a bit more of a nightmare, but once they're made, I should then have battens that go all the way across and are 100mm wide. So it gives me a nice big area to aim for, where I'm not hitting steel inside and it'll send the drill bit wherever it wants. So, we've got the circular saw set up, we've got the tools out. Let's make 4 pieces of timber to allow us to create a nice roof. We now have 8 strips of 9mm ply, making a maximum or total depth of 18 per roof strengthener, beam, batten, whatever you want to call it. So the plan is, obviously 18mm wouldn't quite have the flex in it required. However, if you take 2 9mm, they can obviously move and flex. That didn't sound good, granted. But we only need about that much. But it allows that flex to happen. So, if we find the center point of each one of these, drill a hole through, we should then be able to get them up in the center, and then the rest of them we can figure out as we go. Obviously you saw me make the strips. Now what I've done is drilled 2 holes in here. Now to hold these into the roof, there's actually already holes in the batten. Now what we're going to be using is something called a riv nut. So you put these little collars in the roof, and then you use this gun to essentially squeeze down and crush that to create a captive nut inside the roof. So, all being well, we should be able to put 2 of these in the centre, test fit the batten, and if that fits, what we'll do is then use the first batten to replicate the holes across all the battens, and then the first one will get chamfered down purely because I need the nuts to sit, or the bolts to sit flush, and all I have is this Allen key set, or stainless Allens, and that's the longest one I've got. Now obviously bear in mind that's got to go through 18mm of board, and 9mm literally takes up just under half of that. So if I can go through probably 2 layers of the first batten, that should be enough once there's 2 in there holding it down. And I think we're onto a winner. But I'm not going to count the chickens too soon, because we need to test that this all actually works. So I'm going to get the gun set up and then I'll get the roof nuts popped in the roof. Hopefully now you can get the gist of what my aim was. So obviously you can see 9mm doesn't quite do that. So if I make 2, or double it up, and having the 2 bolts in the middle allows us to tailor exactly how the roof sits. Now obviously to double up, you can see here, that's the big issue there. So if I drill all the holes into the boards, get all the roof nuts in, we should then have battens in the roof ready to perfectly attach our other battens too. Starting another day, I have fixed some issues that I came into yesterday because I was rushing basically. But one was the fact that I'd put the wiring loom on the wrong side of this, so it would have always been below. So as you can see, I've notched out here, which has then given space for the cables to go in. I've also added some additional screws here to really strengthen that up. So there's a bit of twist on it because it's going into this metal, which I can move like that. So yeah, it's a lot stronger than it was. And once you've got all 4 combined across the top, it should make a massive amount of difference. So time to show you the roofing, I think. There's a couple of jobs to do before we get started on actually getting the roof boards up. Now, obviously, we have battens. We need insulation, which, if you remember, we took down and bagged up. So, what I'm going to do is spray glue the insulation back onto the roof. That was how they'd held it up in the past, and to be honest, that's not a bad solution. Then, to create the batten look that we're going for, we need a black background. Now, you could use ply. And what I've bought is damp-proof membrane because, well, it's a thick black plastic that should do exactly what we need it to do. It's black, it weighs less than ply, and it weighs less than ply, and it's currently a 3 metre by 4 metre sheet, of which we need a fractional amount of that. So, yeah, we'll get that in, we'll staple that to all the battens, pull the wires through in all the holes. Next is the roofing. We've gone for this. Now this, if I bring it in close, you should be able to see, is oak, but it's actually veneered ply. So these are in 2.4 metre by 80mm lengths, and essentially what they're going to do is attach to each batten up in the roof like that, and they'll be spaced 5mm apart to create a shadow gap in it. Now obviously with 9mm, you've got a good bit of flex, but also they don't weigh a lot. Now we found this from the company, I can't remember what the name is, I'll put it down below. You can order it pre-cut. So we have lots of pre-cut sections in veneered ply. Now if you do anything and you're a business, we applied for a trade account and you got 30% off. So there's a little tip and trick. It says on the website on how to do it, literally on any product page. So yeah, if you do that, 30% off. I think this ended up costing us something like £140 for all of the battens, and there's 2 extra. So probably about 120 quid. But it's the cheapest way we could find to get the effect of an oak slat roof in here, because we were looking at proper oak and it was coming in at £300, £400, £500, £600. So this is a nice option. Doesn't really cost a lot, and today we should be able to completely transform the roof of the transporter, and I think once we've got the roof in, it will really start to feel like it's coming together, and then we'll push on with the walls. I'm excited. I'm nervous because I really don't want to mess this up, but I'm excited at the same time. first plank is in. Now, I hope you kind of get the gist here of what I've tried to achieve. So we're going to essentially have a similar roof to what we have in Norm, but wider planks, because we've seen it on quite a few vans. There's a company down here called Onwards Vehicles, and that's sort of what we're not modelling, but taking inspiration from, with the colour of the carpets. They tend to do ash roofs. We went with oak because it was what the company that we bought from had available. And we've gone with brass hardware and yellow zinc screws. So obviously screws you can get in a plethora of different colours and finishes, but essentially we have gone with that, if it'll focus, screw there, you can see the yellow. And then what we're doing is taking these little things, just little screw collars, but again, they're in brass as well. So in the roof, we've got 18mm of battens, and then we've got 9mm there, so you've got 27mm in total to screw through, and obviously you want to hit both battens behind to make sure that you're getting all the strength from it. So that's the depth at which we are going in at the moment. I'm happy with it so far. I now need to make up some 5mm spacers, because each plank is going to be 5mm apart. So again, that's why I didn't want to really go with the weight of having a whole sheet of ply up there for this roofing, when ultimately all you're going to have between planks is something like that. So you're never actually going to be able to see this. I've just got to make sure that I do a really good job trimming it back and making sure that none of it gets on show. Tell you what, that is the roof done. I am over the moon with how this has come out, and for anyone looking at this sort of thing or looking at this material after we recommended it, the quality is fantastic. There is no damage to any of it. I mean, there's a couple of little scuffs that you can see, and I don't know if that was just done when packing, but to be honest, a light sand, like a really light sanding on the veneer, would get rid of it. Yeah, over the moon. Obviously you'll see there's no lights in, purely because it's 4 o'clock and they still have not arrived. Yeah, 100% happy with this. 9mm ply with veneer, and I really couldn't be happier. Now, one thing I do want to recommend is this, and I'm going to come closer. Yes, it's a pencil, but good old Johnny Boy from True Blue recommended this. Now, it is essentially a 3D printed hole with different measurements round each side. I'm hoping that's in focus, it's really hard to tell. And what that allows you to do is contour. So you've got 6, 9, 15, 19, 22, 25, 18, 12, all written around the sides, and depending what angle you have this to the edge of the wood, depends how far that pencil line will be from the edge. So when cutting in around that roof up there, I could see at the time I got a rough sketch on there, always take off less than you think you need, and then I went, okay, I need about 5mm, and I got 6mm on this side. So essentially around that there, held my finger down next to the piece of wood and just pulled it along. It sounds much more complicated the way I'm explaining it, but in practice it's very simple just to pull like that. And I think these were something like 5 or 6 quid for 2 on eBay. Definitely recommended. It made doing that contour in that corner an absolute breeze. But that is where I'm going to leave you for today. The corded carpet for here has turned up, and it's a much better colour than we thought it was from the photos. We took a bit of a risk after seeing some in another van. Now I'm going to save the sort of glamour shots for when the van is completely finished. Otherwise you'll be seeing the same thing over and over. So that's where I'm going to leave you for today, and I'll catch you guys in the morning. First things first, we've got 2 of the ceiling slats back out. Now, what we're going to be doing with these is fitting our lights that turned up eventually. Now, these are just spring-loaded downlighters in a warm white. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to go halfway between the holes on the screws. This is the back, that is the front of the van. So I'll go in between the two rearmost and then in between the two frontmost. And the reason I also decided to do this morning is I went to Screwfix to get the correct hole saw. So these should be 57mm, and that looks about bang on just to get the springs through. Now, if no one's seen one of these before, not a hole saw, but the Bosch system, right? So it's quick release. So the hole saw comes straight off, makes it very easy for when the inevitable happens and you get the material stuck in the hole. The other thing is it's not uncommon to snap these, especially when you're doing metal and whatever else. And it is quick released on the drill bit as well. So you're essentially left with 3 pieces and it completely strips apart and there's none of the annoying nut coming loose. So to put it back together, it literally just clicks in, and that is your hole saw. So if anyone hasn't used them, I think they're the Bosch professional ones. I think a kit is like 100 quid. I tend to buy the sizes as I need them because chances are I'll need them for the same things over and over again. You can't buy, I don't think, a different size drill bit. So what I'm going to do first is put a pilot hole in this to make sure I get it exactly where I want it. And then I'll go through with this and make the right sized hole for these lights. We kept all the original panels from Porker. Now, what we need to do is strip them all down and work out what we've got. So I've bought some new ply. We've got 3 sheets here of 6mm, and we're going to make some new panels or modify these because these bend and cup because they sit slightly too far down the wheel arch. So I need to take some of this out, which will then allow it to sit much flusher for when we put furniture in. So I'm going to strip these out. Hopefully this one I can just board so you won't see a hole anymore. And then the other side, where it had a speaker as well, we're going to do cubbies with little lights in. So obviously then we can recycle the small hole that's on the back of there for the speaker and turn it into a big old cubby. So let's get started with stripping them down and test fitting. Right, now I need to strip the speaker off again, but I'm not going to make you sit through that. So I'll get this all stripped down and I'll come back to you when we're going to cut this to be the right size. Right, whip it down to just these silly speaker things, which I'm hoping I can peel off to get to the screws again, all being well. I don't have to fill this one in because I'm going to make use of one of these, or this, as sort of the corner for our cubby, which hopefully should be alright. Now I'm going to cut this out first and then I'll make the cubby later on. First I just want to get all the ply panels made up, and then at least I know once I've done the cubby it's just carpeting then. So I can kind of work logically around like that rather than jumping from one job to the other. So now that fits that, we can have a look at this. So we're going to want to follow that down because that stays this side of the beam, and then we need to figure out exactly where we need to be. Will be where it starts to curve. So I'm going to take a straight edge down that, and then but I'm going to oversize it by probably a little bit, and then I can always cut it tighter. But I'm going to start with that. I'm going to take a straight edge, and then once I've got rid of this section out my way, I can work out how I'm going to trace down the support beam that's behind here. So, back to the workbench. Right, so this now fits. We do, however, have some extra bits to get in it. For example, we have a single back box. I think these are like plasterboard mounts, so they're flush mount. They will sit down like that. And then we have a double socket, which is going to go next to it. Now, this, because I haven't wired this van as a ring main for the 240 volt, I have daisy chained. So what that essentially means is it will come out of the inverter, into this, out to the next socket, out to the next socket, out to the next socket, and so on. Well, there's only 3. But what you've got to be very careful to do on a circuit like that is not overload it. So if you do a ring main, which basically means you daisy chain and then loop back to your power source, generally an RCD, you create a circuit, which from memory is 30 amp. So you can pulse it, overload it, etc. Not a problem. We can't do that with this, so we are very limited to a 13 amp, which is standard household 3,000, 2,800, 3,000 watt. Basically anything you can plug in at home, we'll be able to plug into this. And obviously our inverter is going to be a 3,000 watt inverter. Now that can pulse to 6,000. Full transparency, we're going to go Renogy, just because we know it. It's worked well for us, and we've never had any issues in the big van. So it seemed a perfectly valid thing to go for. It's also one of the slimmest. So what this is essentially an RCD switch. So you mount it in like that, you come in from your source, so that'll be inverter, and then go out to your sockets. And essentially what this will do is anytime you go over that 3,000 watt or 13 amp, it will flick the RCD, much like if you overloaded a circuit at home. It's just basic protection with an RCD built into the back, and then on the front, that is all you see. That's as shallow as I could find one, but it is going to be hidden behind the rear cushion anyway, as is this, because we don't really want sockets on show, because it starts to just look, in a small van, I think it starts to look a bit messy. So these will essentially hide behind the vertical cushions, all being well, on the furniture.
Get up on your feet, this is a shakedown. Order up that beat just like it's takeout.
The cubby is now drawn out. The only piece straight on this is this. So what I did was a little bit crude to make it square, but essentially laid that along my line and then drew down. So this is 50 by 30 centimeters. And then I used this cable reel to get my radiuses on the corners like that.
The beat kick. Everywhere you go, you bring the roof down. Everybody knows you got your own sound. So good, so fresh,
Right, I'm going to do that front one, but we'll give it one of these. And there you go. It's not perfectly in position, it's held in by a pair of wire strippers against the seat. But that is it cut out. We're not entirely sure what to do with the window. I don't know whether to get some bendy ply and go round. I was also going to sink the inverter into that, but I don't really want the inverter on show when it's a van. So I think it's going to get too hot. So I think we're going to have to come up with a different solution for that. But for the minute, I'm just going to carpet that panel as it is. The inverter is in real time a good few weeks away for us, so it gives me some time to work out what I'm going to do. And worst case, I can always mark it from the back and then cut the ply with the carpet on, and it won't be a problem. You start to get an idea of what this is going to look like. It's just going to be a shallow cubby, but I need to work out when that is in there and screwed into there, what sort of depth have we got? Now the answer is we're going to have around 4.5 centimeters of cubby because of this support. Now I could cut that out, because we have cut this out on norm to allow you to sleep widthways, but if I can avoid that, then I will. What we're trying to work out here, and this would be far easier with 2 hands or with 2 people. So I've got 5 there, 5 there, 5.5 there, because that's coming away. So yeah, 5, but that is dropping me down to 4. I'm gonna make it for 5, and I'm gonna deal with the consequences later. So I need to make a 50mm box that fits on the back side of this. And then what we'll do is put bungee here, here. So you'll end up with a line across, and then there's a downlighter going in here. So it's just a bit of an accent design piece that stops this being a completely flat carpeted panel. And obviously that side you'll have the table. Now the table we got thrifty with. I'll explain that probably in a later video, but it should hopefully match the ceiling quite nicely. And there we have the completed contour shelving unit. I'm going to drill some little holes to take some LED strips out, or wire for LED strips out, and then yeah, I think Jess might paint these black, but for the minute I'm happy with that. So this is a carpet gone for. I know you've probably seen it in shot all day, but it's essentially a grey corded carpet. Now, the fact that it's corded means it has no stretch. So as far as using this to do your entire van, it would be a challenge. There is minimal. There is some across, but none with the corded sort of grain. So yeah, this is going to be fun. switched on, and the nice lights have gone off because I need to extend the light cable. Typically that's the one that's short. I'm going to head off for tonight. Tomorrow we'll get the back door panels on, slider panel on, and then time to crack on with the floor, and you'll get a full idea of what this is going to look like. And at that point, electrical, which is mostly run, it's just to say, just literally connecting it, trimming, and putting the furniture in. I'll see you guys in the morning. So today I'm going to be cracking on with the floor. Now, we've chosen something slightly out of the ordinary, but something that we saw at the NEC motorhome or camping and motorhome show. Cork. Not really seen it before in vans, other than when I think it was in a Project Yonder van. But it's cork laminate, 10.5mm. So this is what I was allowing the shape for, but it's a really nice pattern. And with it with cork, it should be nice and thermally efficient. Let's go with that. It's probably got a 4mm cork on top and then laminate build up down there. So it's click and lock flooring. Let's get on with it.
Come dance in my glow. Fireflies in the yard, everything's a work of art. Already got everything we need to dance in the glow. Towers in my head, can never get enough. That's all my feeling left. Me and my friends dance until we drop, and the good times don't stop. The good times don't stop. The good times don't stop.
So, floor is down. I'm over the moon about how that's come out. This is as far as we're getting this week, so let's show you around. Six days and we have an entirely transformed van. We've gone from a completely empty shell to this, which I am over the moon with. Last night I went to a friend's house. They had a slab of oak, we milled it down. So we now have an oak surround, which is going to go on that wall for our switch panel, where you saw me bring all the wires through. But I just thought to talk about this floor. So this is by a company called Brickafloor, I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is the Cortex Cork Natura Spirit Nature Varnished finish. So in theory it is already varnished, it is already protected. I've dropped a few things on it already and it seems to be fairly hard wearing. Don't tell Jess that bit. But we've got the seat rails routed in. They are now perfectly flush with the floor. Unlike before, there was a huge gap underneath. So that is nice. We've managed to cut in all around here. Now, we bought 2 packs because it's expensive. If you mess up, you'd need a 3rd pack. I literally made this. This section here is 1, 2, 3 pieces, which will be under the kitchen or the seat, so you won't see it. You can't see it too much anyway, so I can't really complain about that. But yeah, I'm over the moon with how this has come out in 6 days. There's a few bits that haven't arrived in time, so we've not managed to do everything, like lighting up this and whatever else, but we're getting there. So next video will either be electrical or furniture. we don't have either yet. So yeah, I'm not sure which one will be coming, but a lot of the electricals run. It's just a case of connecting it. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and check out what we're going to do in the next one.